Let's talk vinyl.
Indie rocker Mike Fox is cracking open his record collection, one album at a time. If you're listening on a regular podcast app, you'll get the vinyl talk, but if you want the full experience, music and all, smash that link in the show description and tune in on Mixcloud. Here's your host, Mike Fox.
Greetings, vinyl enthusiasts and high-resolution aficionados. It's an honor to have you join us here as we dive into the most authentic and soulful way to experience the music you love. Let's talk vinyl. I'm your host, Mike Fox. I'm particularly excited about this episode. It's good to be here, first of all. And if you're diving in with us via Mixcloud, which is the best place to dive in with us here, okay, you not only just listen to the song Be My Own Man from the LP Good to Be Here by Phillip-Michael Scales, but guess what? The artist behind this episode's featured record, Good to Be Here, is here with us today. Please welcome one of the next great soul singers of the 21st century, Phillip-Michael Scales. It's good to have you here. How are you, Philip?
I'm well. How are you, Mike?
Oh, excellent.
Terrific.
Now, Philip, you're actually the second guest I've actually had on this show, but you're the first one I've met in person prior to you coming on.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of meeting you and watching you at Musikfest in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania back in August of this year. And right after the show, I walked over with my son and I bought this record that I have in my hand with me right here. Good to be here, directly from you. Now,
yeah,
it's such a great record.
Thanks, man.
Oh, of course. Right before we got to the Levitz Pavilion where you were performing, we could hear you in the band, and I was just like, wow, this really sounds good. Because I know it's so hard to pull off a really good, crisp, clean sound, and your engineer was just right on target. So we're hearing this from a distance, and finally when we get to where we're going to sit and watch, every song I was just totally mesmerized.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think that, it's a balance of getting the right guys together and
yes,
putting on the show, and those guys have been putting in work since May, and we were touring real hard, and we came out swinging for sure.
You did, and it was a fun set, but you needed to get some water at one point.
You remember that?
I do. You were taking a water break and all they had backstage were these little Dixie cups, right? At Musikfest.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah, they were just like, pour it in your hand.
So that means you had to fill up, drink. But so while you were hydrating and the band was just doing this extensive jam, when you finished filling up, the music then abruptly stopped. Just share that magic with us. That's just such a great story to relive.
Oh man, so we got a couple tracks in there. We're all playing real instruments. No one's, it's 2025. We're not out there like miming our instruments, but we got horns on the record. We got some pads. We got some other stuff that just bells and whistles that kind of make the show experience a little bit better. So one of those tracks was kind of rolling, and at the end of it, it was funny because it kind of restarted at the end. I just pushed repeat, and I thought it was going to repeat. I didn't think it was going to actually end, and so my band's playing along, jamming along, and they're like, "All right, cool. Here's the thing. Oh wait, Philip's not back yet." And then I could hear in my ears that it was just still going on, like, because there's still like a woman counting and be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my drummer and just looked at my bass player and the horn started like fading back in, and then pop 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 pop, and then I just waited till that downbeat and I walked out. I mean, it's funny. It's kind of like one of those showbiz things, like that's something you can't teach. A 12-year-old TikToker is the art. You can like that only happens because we as just in general as musicians have played hundreds of shows, and stuff goes wrong, and that's why we love live, is to get out there and have those moments.
I did see you posted it on your Instagram, that story, so I was watching that yesterday and I thought I gotta bring this up during the show.
What was it like as an audience member?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, this is what I'll tell you, just it was fun getting into the music, but it was also fun watching the other people get into it too.
Okay.
There was some girls, they were really grooving to it. And I'm sure you probably noticed that from up there when you were saying you got some really good-looking people out here.
Yeah, man.
So that's a nice little perk of being a musician, I bet. But, yeah, it was an immersive experience, and I just couldn't believe I was getting that studio-quality sound while at a concert. It's so hard to achieve there, especially in an open pavilion like that. But you were giving props to your engineer and your band. Oh, my gosh, they were so good.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, that was a really fun show, and yeah, we do a lot of good work, and it's not easy, It's not easy to come by, It's not easy to come by those musicians. It's not easy to come by, the funding to make sure everything can still go and do all that stuff. So we're earning every inch of it,
Yes.
And you saw me back there selling after the show. I sold you the record myself.
Yes, you were. You sold me the record yourself. You got that right. You said I'll be selling CD and vinyl. I said I'm going right over there.
Hell yeah.
Right afterwards. And my wife was taking my daughter a walk. I was with my son, so I just went with my son right over there. I text her, I'm over at the stand. I'm buying something from him right now. It's just because I had to have it because I'm all about high fidelity sound, and I love hearing it from newer artists.
For sure.
But you've been around for a while.
I have.
Tell us about Be My Own Man. Tell us about how that song came about.
That was my first tune with the producer who ended up making the record. He was like, hey, come over to the studio, let's hang out, and maybe we'll write something, maybe we won't, like whatever. And it was we sat down, and he had this funny little rubber bridge guitar, and it's baritone, and so it just sounds really I actually have mine. Let's see if I can grab it. Yeah, so like the rubber bridge part of the song is that like it sounds dead. It doesn't ring out. And so he had that part, and then he had the baritone, which means that it's a low B. So like a regular guitar would start here. But like this is I'm fingering an A chord, but that's actually an E. So like that's how.
Okay.
So yeah. So I was in, funny story, we were on tour, I think it was our first run. We went to Virginia, and we were playing, and the bass player originally had to drop out 2 days before. I found a replacement for him. This kid learned all of the tunes in like under, 2 days. He learned 90 minutes of music, and, was able to take 2 weeks off work with 2 days notice, and just sat in the back of the van learning songs. So, his first show, our first show as like that group, and I go to sell merch. I was like, all right, just pack up my van, and it was dark. And so the band starts packing my van, but they forgot this guitar. So this guitar's stuck in Virginia. We don't find that out until I'm in Baltimore. And so I got to play the show, and the only problem is that Be My Own Man is the only song played on this guitar because it's in a lower key, or it's like this is the register it's in. So I had to relearn the song on a standard tuning guitar to be able to play the song.
Right.
So it was kind of crazy, but that's just a side note. But I figured it out. But like, yeah, so like with this tune, so he just starts, and it's just like, I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. And like, I was kind of trying to channel this like Al Green thing, like she took my time.
I could totally hear that.
Right?
Yeah.
Clip my wings so I wouldn't fly. Made damn sure I, right here, wouldn't get too high. But there was something calling me in the sky. So like for me, that was like, I was like, I don't know. I do love co-writing, especially in Nashville, because I feel like there are people who I would have, like people who have different grooves than I do.
Right.
Right. Like I've got a very specific groove. And once I hear somebody else's sort of flavor, it opens up new stuff for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's like with the Find a Way guy, he was like, play these chords. Do this way. All right, cool. Try this way. And so it was like, now I've got new chords, and like, I'll naturally melodically do something different than I would sort of over, whatever I would do. I mean, it happens, right? Like, it happens with every writer. It happens with every, you read enough Kurt Vonnegut books and you're just like, cool. Estranged old man feels out of place because he came back from, some crazy experience, and now he's trying to, like, witness the world, which is like, sort of Kurt Vonnegut's story, right?
Yeah.
He's like he's like a veteran, who's like, I don't understand this world. I went to war and now I'm back and it doesn't make sense. Same thing with, like, you just read any author enough times and they kind of have a story that they tend to tell. And, people have certain notes that they hit or certain melodic tendencies or melodic things that kind of end up being their signatures, and that's how you know it's them. So when you get to mix up these little pieces of tendencies, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, cool, let's see what this new thing kind of brings.
Wow. Great way of explaining it all. When did you start? When did this journey begin? Take us back.
When I was 9 years old, I was in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with Donny Osmond.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, pretty wild. And it was funny because, I was too young to be in it, but my mother, they wanted my sister, and my mother was like, you get both kids or neither kids, because I was like young by 2 months or something like that. She was like, I'm not going to downtown Detroit and putting her in this play and then taking him to soccer practice across, the state. We're either all in or we're not. And so, so that was my first sort of immersion into performance, so that was like the Hamilton of the day. That was, must have been 55 shows, and I want to say that theater seats around 2,000 people, maybe something like that. I was 9 years old, youngest person on that stage, and so I went on, and that was kind of my first taste of it all. And then, high school, I learned that I could I learned how to play guitar in middle school, and then I was like, wait, I can write my own songs. And then, like, as soon as I figured that out in 8th grade, I put a concert on in my backyard, or my best friend's backyard, and the parents all went to Costco and got that stuff, and I was sneaking into, I was sweet talking the teachers into letting me into the teachers lounge so I could use their neon paper to make flyers.
Yeah.
So I would use these flyers, and then I would just go to class and just pass these flyers out to all the different kids. And so, we had an end of the school year, concert, and that was my first thing. And then spent high school flirting with girls and getting my heart broken, and then going home recording all weekend, and then selling her back the I'd go burn that CD and then I'd sell her back the CDR with the hand-drawn artwork about her breaking my heart and make $5 or whatever in the hallway, and I'd have money for Cokes or whatever, sodas. And so then I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. I met a bunch of cool folks out there. Some are still my best friends today. And then pretty much since then, I hit the road. It's been a tough time. Not tough, but the landscape changed a lot, right? When I was in college, there wasn't Spotify yet. Instagram was not even really a thing yet. And so, like, that whole landscape of, is it Vine, is it TikTok, is it this, is it that, kind of hadn't settled for quite some time. So then I lived in Chicago for a while, and that's my heart. That's my heart is Chicago. I was living out there and just learning how to do it, and so I haven't really gotten any, I mean, I've had some lucky breaks, but I haven't really had any sort of industry like handouts, so to speak. No, I signed to a record label in France, but they were just distributing the record, the first one. So it's all lessons that I've learned myself, So every step of this journey, I've gone down the rabbit hole of branding or marketing or production or whatever it is, and oh, my voice isn't good enough. Okay, let me go jump into voice lessons. Oh, I need better guitars. Okay, cool. Let me work on this guitar thing for a while. It just kind of kept being this round robin that made me a well-rounded individual, to the point where I'm kind of self-contained at this point.
And you're wearing multiple hats too.
Man, I got so many hats. I should start selling some of them.
Yeah, but you're wearing all of them so well. It's amazing
how
you.
I appreciate that.
Of course, you went from, you just performed. How long was that set? What, an hour and a half?
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I was right on target there. And then right away you're selling me the record, and everyone's coming up to you. And I think I remember I overheard a lady even saying, "Weren't you here before at this festival?" And you said, "Yeah, I think you did say. In fact, you were a few years ago." Did you?
Yeah.
perform there. Wow.
Yeah, man. So I mean, it was funny. I think we were on the smaller stage last time, and then we were on the bigger stage this next time.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's been cool. It's been cool to sort of watch the growth and I mean, live shows are tough these days in terms of like getting people out. I think with
Yes.
everything being so uncertain and
Of course.
just when I started out playing music, like we didn't have much to go see. You know what I mean? Like it was like
Mm-hmm.
if you were a high schooler, it was the bowling alley or a movie or your friend's house or
Yeah.
a concert. That was kind of it, and now it's like your phone. You've got TikTok and Instagram and
Yes.
dating sites and Netflix and all that stuff. So you've probably already seen the show on your phone. You're live streaming
Exactly.
Taylor Swift or whatever.
Yeah, everything's very accessible. But what I like though about your album here is it really is stripped down to the point. Not just with the great lyrics and the great singing and the great sound, but it brings us back to like where music really needs to go back into that direction again. Really where it's just like from the heart, from the soul, and no gimmicks.
Sure.
And you don't have any gimmicks. It's just you and your band just doing it, killing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like however people want to create art. I think is really cool, but I think the most important thing is that it comes from you.
Exactly.
Like we're racing these AI bots now, and the thing that an AI bot, maybe it can make a song in 15 seconds or whatever it is, and but like there's a real human breathing thing that happens, and I think the thing about originality is that like we all have quirks and we all have a point of view, and
True.
we go to certain artists for their point of view.
Yes.
Like Jimi Hendrix wasn't the cleanest guitar player by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
He was great, but he was such a pioneer of the instrument and did so many things that only made sense to him, and then you get somebody like Stevie Ray Vaughan who comes in after him and kind of takes it a little more Texas soul blues kind of that direction.
Right.
But it's almost so polished that it's not really Jimmy, like even though like he's got a cover of Little Wing, it's very much like he figured out what it is and perfected Little Wing, but like there was something in the original recording that Jimmy's fingerprints are on. It's about
Jimmy.
Fingerprints.
Same with All Along the Watchtower. Very Jimmy, even though it's Dylan. And talk about what fortitude it took him to play Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I don't know if it was after it came out or before it came out, because he had heard the record at, I think, a listening party, and he played it live in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, whoa, what did I just hear?
Yeah. I mean, once Jimmy got a hold of it, man, it was a whole different thing.
A totally whole different thing. When I first got a hold of your record and I put it on, when I first heard that opening track, Light Up the Sky, it was just like the experience I had listening in solitude in this room that I'm in to it was identical with the experience of your show live. It was just like that where it hits you right here in the gut and the soul and the heart. It's just like that feeling. And I love getting back to that feeling because when I was in my teens, during the age of CD collecting, before streaming, before downloads and then streaming came right after that. So when downloads started to come out and then when streaming took over, it's like music was still there and there was great music always being made, but I felt like noticing how society was experiencing it started to change. But now I'm seeing things kind of go full circle again because I go to record stores and I see people of all ages going out and buying vinyl. So I realize, oh my gosh, I'm not alone here. Other people really want to experience not just the artists that they grew up with or the artists that their grandparents or parents introduced them to, but they also want to hear newer artists on vinyl. And that's just so advantageous because you're taking this uncompressed sound and you're just, it's like sound immersion, it's like everything accessibility is nice, but at the same time, just, I feel like when you buy music, it's like you're taking your life back in a way. You know what I mean? Because we get on this autopilot mode and we lose something about ourselves. But once we purchase a vinyl or even just go to a concert, it's like we're taking our life back. We're taking something that we lost along the way. So it's just such a beautiful thing to see people kind of go back to that pastime and re-experience that in
I would
2025.
I would argue that you're actually invested in it. You've either invested time in going to the show and going to the record store. You've invested time in listening to the music on vinyl.
Yes.
You've invested money in that, because like on vinyl you can't just skip around. I mean, you could, but like, it takes more effort to, so you're kind of experiencing this thing, and it sort of shuts off all the other options for for distraction and whatever, and you get to hear the music the way that we intended it to be heard. I remember being in a studio once, and I was just hanging out with a friend, and we just started playing records back and forth off Spotify, but like in a studio with high fidelity sound.
Yes.
And we were like high schoolers again, just be like, oh my God, do you hear that? Blah, 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 blah. Because like we're so used to hearing things in, these AirPods, which are great for working out or great for, having a phone conversation on your way someplace. But like,
for sure,
to hear the uncompressed sound is something that's really exciting, and I think that we're in this age of, I don't want to say gluttony, but it's kind of like so much access to all of this music that we used to have to buy in. We used to have to buy into the idea that like, all right, I don't know what metal's about, but I've either got to buy a metal record or go to a metal show with my friends and like truly experience what this thing is. Now it's like, oh, I'll go to the bathroom in fourth period and download some metal, stream some metal to my phone and be like, oh yeah, I love this, I love this record.
Right. But it's like, it's so different. Like when you were talking about, you were listening to the streaming in this with the speakers and having that conversation. At least that was a community experience. So
true.
I feel like the new school and the old school can join together, because I use both. I mean, I subscribe to Apple Music, but I do it because I want to see what I dig, and whatever I really just grabs me, I'm buying that on vinyl. Or I'm going to see them in concert, because a few weeks ago, not too far from where you were performing, right over, where there's a casino right next to that?
Yeah.
Right at their event center, I saw Cheap Trick there. And
oh, cool.
It was a great show. It was really cool. Those guys still know how to rock. So that's just like, that's a community thing. It's so different than just, pulling it up on your phone. But if you're pulling it up on your phone, you guys are listening together, and it's not just in the background, then you're having that community experience. So that's all that I'm seeking, is just having that camaraderie of talking about music together, because I miss that, but I'm glad it's coming back, because I felt like, I noticed like in the first decade of the century, I started to notice, I did like the iPod. I thought it was a great invention, but I did notice that because people weren't listening to whole albums as much and just songs, I felt like music was becoming a little bit like fast food at that moment. But fast forward to today, I feel like it's being reversed, and it's just, at times like this, it's just so much needed, because we need to turn off all that background noise and really just immerse ourselves in art.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the art is really a key that we're all missing, in our lives sometimes. And I think that like, I've been to the Louvre a couple times in France or in Paris, and there's something that you can look at all the pictures you want in the world of something, but like,
for sure,
when you are face to face with a marble, statue of a veil, and you're like reaching out to damn near touch it because you're just sure that veil is made of something sheer and it's made of rock, it's made of the same stuff you're standing on. You're like, how, like, it's just such a different experience, and I think that, they're talking about the attention economy, and I think a lot of people, our attention is being pulled all the way, all the directions. They're just like, hey, like, ding, here's a text from your mom. Like, ding, here's an email from work. Ding, here's like, your best friend sending you a dumb reel about whatever. And it's like, ding, here comes like, it's just all these dings, and it's like, you can't even have your attention span. I think there is something that we're not going to get otherwise from like the human crafted thing. There is something like of a voice and a guitar and a song that resonates with people, and I don't think AI is ever going to have that experience. And and there's a lot of people who are trying to get rich quick in the game,
Yeah.
we'll just pump out music. And that's like something that like I personally just can't get down with. Like there's a lot of people and producers, and God bless them, they've made some cool stuff every now and then, but it's kind of more of a game of numbers. Like I have a very hard time writing a song just to write a song just to finish a song,
Exactly, because you look at certain artists that felt that pressure, some very high-profile artists. There's very few artists that maybe every album they made was good, was excellent.
Sure.
Like there might be a few good hits off of there, but you realize they were under pressure by the record company to produce. So because they're on this schedule, we got to put it on an album every 2 years, and the art was not like. The creative juices might not have been flowing at that time, so they're having to kind of force it. It's not the same. It's like
but now fast forward to, before it was vinyl, right? So you get 45 minutes, period. You had 45 minutes, period, and then you got a CD, which was like what, 90 minutes, if that? I'm not sure exactly, 80 minutes, somewhere around there. Now it's the internet, so it literally doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You just chalk out as much, and a lot of people are like, oh, your schedule's got to be 4 to 8 weeks putting out something new. And you're just like, how do you do that?
How do you do that? Well, that's why nowadays people are still making albums, but they're making more singles. Even when I release my own original music, I use DistroKid, and so it's like you always have to play the game. Like you said, you have to stretch it out and have the song in the bank, and then like make sure it's going to come out like at least a month in advance to hopefully get added to people's playlists. So that's become the new radio, really, because while terrestrial radio still is out there, it's a secondary form of music consumption.
Sure. Yeah. There are definitely, and I embrace TikTok, to be honest. I think it's a cool, interesting medium, only because the algorithm does seem to know very specifically what people want. And I'll be honest, man, on this tour, I had a handful of people at every single show who came from TikTok, and they knew every word. They came and they bought merch, and they were stoked to be there. And you could just tell. When they were there. You were just like, I've never seen you before in my life, but somehow you know the entire discography, and I love you.
Exactly.
Well, there was definitely, I think is great.
There was definitely that camaraderie in the audience the night I saw you. And what I loved is when you closed with Stand By Me, and that was the only cover you played. But I love how you kindly ranked one side of the audience to the other based on their enthusiasm. But that motivated people to just, all right, I got to cheer a little bit louder, and I got to sing along a little bit louder.
Man,
awesome.
I love a live show, man.
Me
that's where my heart and soul has been the entire time. And there's so much work and just, my show day is like, get to the venue, make sure that everybody everything's where it's supposed to be, explain my sound setup because it's a little complicated to the sound person. Sometimes you get 15 minutes or like whatever it is, and to set up and make sure everything sounds great, and then you position your cameras and make sure that's working, and then you try to record the show so make sure that's working, and then you make sure your gear's working, and then you get out there, you play the show, and then hey, thanks everybody, good night, and then you hop off stage, and your band is, I'm lucky enough to have a band that would help me tear down some of my stuff. And then you run to the merch, you sell as much as you can, you shake hands, you try not to rush people through the lines, you tear it down as fast as you can, help the dudes finish with gear, and then pack up the rest of your stuff, and it's like, if you're lucky, maybe you get a couple minutes to like see fireworks afterwards or whatever. So it's just like get in the van and head to the hotel and do it all again, and drive another 6 hours the next day. So it's like that 90 minutes that I get on stage, or that hour or whatever it is the most precious time I sort of have,
Yes. It's like a meditation, even though it's a working meditation, but it's like you know the chords, you know what guitar you're going to change to in the next song. You're in tune with the band, so it's like it's not automatic. It's like, but it's like you're like you know that you're going to get that jolt, and when you come off the stage, you're going to feel what the audience gave to you as you're giving it back to them, and having that artist-audience relationship, which is just priceless.
It is. It is totally priceless. So getting in that game real quick is tough, and sometimes it's a tough way to drop in, it's a tough it's tough to drop into that role sometimes when you're on stage. It's like usually, song 1, song 2, you're usually there, but when you've got so many other things that are swirling around in your head and making sure that everything else is, working. That's why when you have somebody, at the huge level, they have a million assistants and people doing sound and people doing all this other stuff and setting up their gear is just so the artist can like drop in and be there and give you that show, you know?
Because if someone else is tuning up the guitars for you, you don't have to pull up Guitar Tune on your phone and check every chord. You could just come in there, up, ready to go.
Being ready to go is a beautiful thing.
It sure is. Now, I heard you did mention before you played one song during the show about how you were invited to perform on a show during Ellen DeGeneres' last season on the Ellen Show. Is that correct?
That is.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Man, that was a crazy day. I was on tour with a band called Caravan Palace, and I was in D.C. I will never forget. And I was at a buddy's house, and my publicist called me, and she was just like, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And she was just like, "Ellen wants you to be on her show." There was no Ellen liked something on Instagram or like there was no sign of anything. It just kind of happened. And so apparently what had happened was that it had gotten radio play, and I had a radio guy at the time who heard the song in Nashville and was like, "I think this has legs," and started to give it to his friends on the national circuit. And it got played on SiriusXM radio one time.
One time.
Now, one time Ellen DeGeneres happened to be listening to the radio SiriusXM at that point in time, and I guess she just decided like, hey, like I want him on this show. This sounds great, So it was cool to play Ellen, and I got to do it with some of my best friends in the world. I'm heading out to one of their weddings actually at the end of this week.
No kidding.
But I had slept on every dude who was on that stage. I had slept on their couch. I'd crashed on their couch at one point in time. So, it was such a win to be able to go out and see, just go out and do that with, my best friends.
And what song was it that she heard that you played that was played on SiriusXM?
It's a song called "Find a Way."
Find a Way. Okay.
Yeah. It's not on vinyl yet, but one day it will be.
So was that released as a single, or was it on?
Yeah. It was just released as a single. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Just kind of a co-write. Me and my I had a first like co-write that I ever had, and he was like, "Hey, go see this guy Tony." And so I went to see this guy Tony, and we just kind of, he was like, "Play some chords," and I was like, "Great." And he put like this beat in the computer, and I was like, "Okay, sweet." And so yeah, it was cool. It was cool to be able to just kind of have this song done in 5 hours or whatever it was, and yeah, we got to working, and it was great.
Oh wow, that is just so cool.
It was one you just knew, you know what I mean?
You
like
just
you just knew, and it was funny because there's a hook in it, and as I was leaving. Not leaving, but we were like, all right, cool. Song sounds good. Song looks good. And I was like, what if there was like this, like, ooh? And he was like, great, sing that. And then like I sang it into like, he's like, sing that 3 times into this microphone. So I sang it, and then he like doubled it on keys, and it ended up being like the hook to the song. But it was literally the last piece of the puzzle.
It's just so neat how that's just that extemporaneous moment where you just felt like something's missing from the song, and it was what you just did, and he doubled it with keys. That I love stories like that. I love it when I hear it. And to hear it from the artist itself is really cool, because I heard something similar about that with the Billy Joel record that I did an episode on, The Stranger. The whistling at the beginning of that song that he does.
Yeah,
he was just walking around New York doing that, and it was so funny. Phil Ramone, the producer, said that's going in the song. That's your intro.
Yeah, man, it can come from anywhere, and I think like there's 2 schools to it all, I think that like before I was hesitant, I'd hear about like Blink-182 wrote their album in a week or something like that. And what you realize is like it kind of becomes a magic trick, and in terms of like you've written enough songs at a certain point in time where you know how to write a song, and it's just kind of channeling it and putting it in the right place at the right time, more or less, and then, I think nowadays my songwriting process is probably sit down, write, and I have Twigs. I got a little notebook called Twigs on my phone, and yeah, it was St. Vincent. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a badass guitar player and songwriter, and they asked her once, she did a record with David Blaine, which was pretty cool. Not David Blaine, David, Talking Heads guy,
David Byrne.
Byrne. There we go. Yeah, she did a record with David Byrne. It was cool.
Wow.
But yeah, dude, she's like a shredder. She's awesome. But they were like, "Hey, do you write songs on tour?" And she's like, "No, I just collect twigs and then I build a nest when I get home." And so I thought that was cool. So you're out, you're walking around, you're doing your thing as an artist. You're noticing things. You're writing down these little lines or snippets or whatever it is. And so they'll all be in like this little folder in my phone. And then, when I sit down to write, I'll, mess around with the guitar. Maybe a melody will come to me, maybe it won't. And then I'll just like fill in a couple lines and I'll be like, okay, cool. Now I've got something to start from.
Mm-hmm.
And then, work on it for a couple hours. And usually I'm like, okay, cool. I got a verse. I got a chorus. I kind of know what the song's about. And it's like, once you know what the song's about, you're sailing. It's like you get a cool line. Maybe you get a cool thought or a cool idea. And then you're just like, okay, now I just need to reinforce this premise. I need to reinforce this feeling. And I think typically it's like, all right, cool. So like 3-4 hours, songs usually done in some form. And then I'm more of a sculptor. I think out loud. I chip away at things out loud. I have to listen to the song back and be like, I need to hear something else here. I'm missing something. So I'm very like experiential in my listening thing. I got to send it to a couple friends and be like, what do you think? Because listening to a demo, like you said, communal experience, when you play something for somebody else, you notice so much more than you would if you just played it by yourself in a room. You're like, oh man, this is jamming. And then like you hear it with somebody else and you're like, oh, okay, right. We need to clean that corner up and there's a spot on that wall. And, so that's kind of been my process for songwriting recently. So I don't think that it's necessarily when I was younger, I thought like, oh, how could you write a meaningful song that quickly? But I also think too, we got to capture the moment, we got to capture the moment and capture the feeling of that song. And I think that the good thing about being able to record yourself these days is that like that spark between your idea and getting it down can be so like shorter, like so much shorter to the point where now you've captured that feeling. And I think once you've captured that feeling, you're in a really good space to transmit that feeling. Totally. Whereas if you have to save up money for 2 years to get your best song recorded, to get your this, to get your that, you might be over that breakup and in a relationship and happy as I don't know what. And now you're sitting there trying to be like, unbreak my heart.
Right. And you're happy.
Thinking about, you
got the, what do they call it? The glow. And everyone's like, wait a minute. There's something not synced
something's
up.
Off.
Something's
off about this dude.
He's
right?
smiling as he sings it.
I can feel it. I don't know what's going on. And that's the thing, man. I think at the end of the day, is that we all got feelings and we're all feeling creatures. And the only reason we've evolved this far is because of feelings of either ours or somebody else's. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, since that's our survival mechanism, we're real good at detecting BS,
totally.
Yeah. And I think that we, on some level, we know when we're connecting to BS and when we're not connecting to BS.
Exactly.
Sometimes we get fooled, it happens, but
all of us.
But for the most part, I think when it comes to art, there's usually something that we I don't know why I like this thing. It's not perfect. It's not whatever, but you can just feel the authenticity coming through the speakers.
How about Can't Get Enough? Tell us about that song, how that came about.
Can't Get Enough, man. I co-wrote that with my buddy Kai. And Kai and I were homies. He's like, man, what if we wrote a song that was like happy? And I was like, sure, yeah. And he had just come back from this like retreat, like Carolinas, something like that. And he was like, yeah, man, what if we wrote something that was like really like I'm happy and like whatever. And so I was thinking about this guy Theo Katzman, who's a part of Wolfpack, and he's got a great album called Be the Wheel, and he's so like he has this insane falsetto. I don't know how, I don't know where it comes from, but like I was just like, well, what if like the chorus was just like I can't get enough, like, and I just like went for it, and then I did, and it was really cool. So yeah, I went for it. I just kind of went for it, and it was funny. I was in a relationship at the time, and I met somebody who was great, and a strong-willed woman, and yeah, man, it was pretty easy to write in terms of like, the song's premise is like, you're just as crazy as I am. Like, like I
Right.
found my match, and I had to do some work to get there. I had to do some work to sort of not earn it, but like I think that good things in life require more of you,
Yeah. Investment. Yeah.
bring you take you like ask more of you, demand more of you, and I think that that's why an NBA championship means so much. That's why an MVP means so much. That's why finishing things means so much to people, because it demands something out of you that sometimes you didn't even know you had in you.
Exactly.
I think I'm in love. No way. That's kind of what Can't Get Enough ended up being. But I always tell a funny story because I remember at the time I was recording it, I feel like producers love to get that like edge of breakup on your voice, where you're just like really going for it. It's like, how high can we do this without you, without you like, and still get the note we want, but like we just want it, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the studio, and he's recording. He's like, with songs, it's like you have to learn how to sing them.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like if like with at least with that, right? Like, and so I couldn't really hit it in the beginning, right? I was like, I can't get nope, that's not can't get enough. Okay, well, and there's long notes in there. Can't get enough. I think I'm in love. Those long notes, holding them, keeping them in tune, and it's like he's an old school producer, man. He's not gonna sit there and let me just like call in, bullshit, or he's not gonna let me auto tune the record or whatever. So, yeah, I just. Nope, and then finally I got it, and I was like, Dan, what am I supposed to do on tour? And I just hear that studio click, and he's just like, good luck.
But you nailed it, because you did play that live.
I did.
I
did
did
play
hear
it
you
live,
say
and
that live. Yeah.
What a story. What a song.
What a song. Amazing song. And I definitely hear that Al Green influence in there. And so Dan Knobler is the producer of this record, correct?
Yeah, Dan Knobler did everything on that record. Yeah. He also did the Free Yourself Up record.
Oh, he did. Okay.
From Lake Street Dive.
Okay.
Yeah. So that song, like, tell him I'm a good kisser. Like, that was also him. And then he got nominated for a Grammy for the Allison Russell record, Outside Child.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's a deep cat for sure. So when he came to me,
producer.
I was like, yeah. When he came to me, I was like, yeah, let's make a record. Absolutely.
Let's do it.
What is money? What is time?
Exactly. Well, the collaboration definitely worked. It was very organic. I guess the last song I'll ask you about is the one that we'll close the episode with, Something About You. Tell us about that.
Oh, man. The interesting thing of Something About You is originally, I don't know if you're familiar with the band The National.
Yes, I've seen them live before, actually.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. So it's like divorced dad music, right?
Totally.
Like it's not.
That's why they wear suits when they're playing.
It's not. It's like The National is not like She Broke My Heart. Like The National is like she took everything.
Yeah. There's nothing left of me.
There's nothing left of me. And so I was writing, and I was just trying to write over these like riffs or whatever. And I was like, because like you try different things. And so there's like this piano thing, that like blom, 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 a really dark sounding thing. And originally it was like, I was like kind of trying to channel The National, right? And where I'm like, I think I wasted enough of my time waiting on you. And like it was kind of like this dark, like, it's getting embarrassing saying your name in therapy, knowing what I should do. And I was like, I kind of like these lyrics, right? And they're like dark. And then I was writing for the record and just like listening to things that I'd written, and I was like, well, this is too sad to actually like put out. But I was like, what if, and I think Daisy Jones and the Six had kind of come out, that like faux Fleetwood Mac story or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, what if I kind of like made it feel a little bit more like this? And then I kind of like put it up and I was like, I think I wasted enough of my time. There's something about you, something about you, oh, something about you. And then Dan added the horns to it, and I was like, oh, this song I love this song.
It has a touch of Lindsey Buckingham in it, yeah, like when you mentioned Fleetwood Mac, yeah, his style of songwriting and riffing, yeah.
But I think it's kind of cool because it's like those lyrics are nothing like Fleetwood Mac.
No.
And like that's kind of the funny thing is like sometimes as an artist, it's like one, I'm a terrible copy machine. Like I could try to sound like The National and no one would. People would be like, that doesn't sound like them at all. Some people are great copy machines. It is.
It's a good thing to not be that way. People can't say he sounds a little bit like but okay, maybe a little bit, but more like this. Well, they can't pinpoint one person,
exactly,
one artist,
and I think it's cool because like that's where influences come from, right? It's like I'm a National fan. I kind of like was like, ooh, it'd be cool to write a song that feels like this, it feels like that, and then you get to another point where you're just like, all right, cool, I dig that, and then you're just like, okay, but what if we put it over this? And now all of a sudden you've got something brand new.
Yeah,
I'm gonna shoot a wild card. Have you heard the song "All on My Mind"? She's All on My Mind by Anderson East.
I can't say that I have, but maybe if somebody played it for me, maybe I might recognize
So he's
it.
like got this like raspy voice, and it's like, she's all on my mind, feel something when I open my eyes. She's all on my mind. It's kind of like just a sludgy rock kind of thing, right? And it's funny because Ed Sheeran actually wrote the song. I think they like co-wrote it or whatever, but as soon as I heard that, it was like, she's all on my mind, I feel something when she opens my eyes, she's all on my mind, and I was like, oh, this totally makes sense. You just like smoked it out and stretched it out, and now it's like this sort of like sludgy tune. But it's like that to me in music is sort of interesting because again, we all have our patterns, but once you put it through a different lens, it kind of goes differently.
Totally, and I could hear you down the road experimenting with other genres, but putting your own spin on it. I could even hear you trying to do a little bit of like punk. I could totally hear that.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, I think songs are people, right? And the goal is to make a beautiful person.
Exactly.
The genre's just the clothes.
Exactly.
Some people only gonna look good in a t-shirt and jeans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there's other people who you could put them in a tuxedo, you could put them in a paper bag, and you just I don't know, but you're wearing that paper bag right now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like that, I think is the testament to a good song. How many covers of Beatles songs are there out there where you're just like, sounds great when Stevie does it. Sounds great when Jimmy does it. Sounds great when like Al Green has a cover of I Want to Hold Your Hand, and you're just like, how? This is incredible.
And you forget that it was the Beatles when you get into his version.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so I think a good song is really transformative,
Absolutely. Well, Philip, I'm so glad you decided to meet with me and talk about your musical process, and we covered so much today. So I'm going to keep following you, and I look forward to see what else you come up with in the next few years. It's neat to see the evolution of an artist. So I'm glad I got to. It was just it was just so extemporaneous being able to go to Musikfest, get there at that time, and I knew the Black Keys were playing, and I was like, wait a minute, is that the Black Keys playing? How are we hearing it here for free? But then I realized no. When I get there, I'm like, whoa. So
if only the bank would make that mistake, right? When I come rolling up, they're like, that's the Black Keys, right? Cool, let's give him $100,000.
Exactly. You're really killing it on vinyl. You're killing it in streaming. You're killing it as a live artist because that's what you're passionate about. So keep doing what you're doing.
Hey, appreciate you, Mike.
Of course. My guest today has been Phillip-Michael Scales. We're going to close with Something About You.
Something About You. Thanks, man.
Thank you.